Welcome back to the Smoky Pastures Barbecue YouTube channel. Very simple recipe today. It's no secret. Everyone's probably tried one before. Doing a jalapeno popper. Everyone's favorite entree. Great thing about these is they make the perfect snack. They're super easy to prepare. But a couple of little hacks to make it easier for you to do it that I'm going to go through today. So enjoy. Right guys, great thing about jalapeno peppers is you can pretty much do these popper snacks in any situation and have them as an entree, whether you're cooking hot and fast, low and slow, doesn't matter. Most of the ingredients in this, the bacon, the jalapeno pepper itself, and the ricotta cheese that I'm using and the barbecue rub, they don't really need to be cooked. You want to soften them up so they're just a little bit more enjoyable and you can get a bit more smoke in them. In our case, we're doing something a little bit different by smoking them. So what I like to do is just cut them down the middle. Now, jalapeno peppers, they're not the hottest pepper, so that's why I'm kind of okay with doing this with bare hands. So you can do it if you want with gloves on, but you don't need to worry too much about these. So what I've done is I've cut them in half, I've cut the end off, and basically with a knife or a spoon I'm just working it along the edge of that membrane. If you can separate the membrane from the flesh, often a lot of that inside stuff comes out. Sometimes it proves a little bit more tricky, and that's where you get your spoon in there. I like to use a spoon that's sort of got almost a little bit of a sharp edge to it, and then you can sort of scrape and almost slice it at the same time. So just doing 6 of these today. Now, beautiful thing is with jalapeno poppers, realistically, there's no number one definitive recipe. There's no cooking situation that you can't really do them in. I like to do them on a charcoal grill because I think the smoke flavor that you can add to them really adds to the quality of the dish. And that's what we're doing here today. We're cooking them by themselves, but you can throw them in along with any other sort of cook, long, low and slow cook that you're doing. You can cook them on their own as a special treat, hot and fast. It doesn't really matter, because all you're really doing is cooking them to either add a bit of smoke flavor or and to just soften them up, crisp up that bacon. And we're also going to add a little bit of a sauce today and get a little bit more sweetness in there as well. So once we've got these peppers all de-seeded, it's pretty simple from here. I've got some bacon that I've already sliced up, and I like to use nice streaky bacon or any sort of bacon that's good for sort of wrapping, and I've got some here that's from my local butcher. Now what I've got in this bag here, this is 1 cup of ricotta cheese mixed with 2 tablespoons of a barbecue rub. In this case we're using Lane's Sweet Heat. I like to have a nice sweet barbecue rub in my popper mixture because the sweetness sort of, if there is a little bit of heat in there, the sweetness really complements that quite well. Now all I've done is I've thrown it in a just a medium-sized freezer bag here to make myself a bit of a ghetto style piping bag. All it does is make it a little bit easier. Instead of sort of spooning this mixture onto the poppers, cut the end off there. All I'm going to do is use my little piping bag to sort of fill up that popper with our cream cheese and spice mixture. As you can see, you can do this process pretty quick with a setup like this. Now you can leave the stems on, you can leave the stems off, you can close the poppers back up, make them whole again, then wrap the bacon around them. Either way, doesn't matter. We're just going pretty rough and ready today because I want to show you how sort of quickly you can put these together. So yeah, not really focusing too much on neatness and presentation, but what this little snack does best is just taste absolutely fantastic. So once we've got our little half a jalapeno here, it's as simple as getting some bacon, wrap it around, and then grab a toothpick, try and poke it through the loose end of the bacon, poke it through the jalapeno itself. Try not to poke your finger on the way out, and literally that's it, ready to go. Good thing about the ricotta, it's not a really oily cheese. You can use creamed cheese as well, whatever you want. I like ricotta, it's got great flavour, and it's got a nice little sort of texture and consistency that I'm a bit of a fan of. But at the end of the day, it's not a high oil based cheese, so it's not going to run everywhere and end up gooey, and it actually, especially given a little bit of smoke, it's just going to brown up and end up tasting absolutely fabulous. So I'm going to just finish these guys off, just so I can you know, definitely show you how quick and easy it is to just do these half a dozen here. And then I'm going to show you how I sort of set up my smoker. In this case, we're just doing it on the Weber Go Anywhere, and we'll go from there. So I'll talk a little bit about time and temps afterwards and how to tell when they're done. But I'm not really even going to look at what the cooking temperature on the pit is today, because it doesn't really matter. As long as you're not absolutely cooking the hell out of these things, you can do them hot and fast, low and slow. All that's going to change, I guess, is probably how much smoke flavour that they take on, and whether the bacon's a bit more crispy or a little bit more moist. But anyway, I'll catch you over at the smoker. Alright, so got some lit coals going here in the GA. Got the vent on this side open, the vent on the other side closed. I'll explain why that's important in a minute. Just going to get a little bit of peach wood. Nice little chunk. I do want to get a fair bit of smoke on these. I'm going to put that peach wood directly on those hot coals, give it a couple of minutes to fire up before I put the lid on. So when I put the lid on, I'm only going to have the exhaust vent on this side open, because I want some nice air coming in through this vent here, heating up those coals, heating the wood, getting good combustion going so the wood burns at a high temp. And then we're going to have our poppers sitting on the grate around about here, and then we want to have our exhaust vent on this side so it drags the nice smoke flavour over the top of the food, and gives us what we're looking for doing this on a charcoal cooker. So I'll come back when I've got the poppers in and explain a little bit about indirect cooking. Okay, so our secret to good wood combustion and good smoke is getting it on at a nice high temp. So that wood's burning on nicely. Got the poppers sat in there. If you notice, I've got them over here. We're setting them up for indirect cooking. Now, the reason why I said before you can do them in a hot and fast cook or a low and slow cook or whatever, that's provided that they're cooking indirect. If you're going to direct cook them over a high heat source, they're just going to burn, and you know the outside of the jalapeno is just going to blister. The bacon's probably going to end up charred. Either way, indirect cooking is fine. If it's at a high temp, it's just going to take less time. If it's at a low temp, it's going to take longer. So I'm not really checking the temperature on this, but just from past experience, I'm going to roughly assume that the temp in the pit's going to be about 180 to 200 degrees Celsius, and therefore these are going to take about 25 minutes with about 5 minutes after a glaze to just set that. Whereas if I'm doing them in a smoker, low and slow at 110, 120 Celsius, probably more like 45 minutes to an hour. And once again, everything here doesn't really need to be cooked for food safety purposes. The bacon is cured, the jalapenos can be eaten raw, the cream cheese is the same. So we're really just going for texture, flavour development, and that sort of thing. So overall, I'm going to put the lid on now. So once again, we've got our exhaust on the right hand side. Draw that smoke back up over the top of the poppers. As you can see, we've got some nice lit peach wood in there. Peach is a nice mild flavoured wood, and you can barely see that smoke, and you can just start to see it now. It's nice and blue. That's our good kind of smoke that we're looking for here. Okay, so we are at the 25-minute mark, and we've got some nice colour, and I said I'd say how to check when they're done. Like, if you just have a little squeeze, and if that pepper is nice and soft, and you can see there It's changed from sort of a darker greeny colour into that sort of more sort of khaki green. The bacon's looking nice, that's reddened up well. So what we're going to do is in this last 5 minutes add a little bit of sauce. So here's another little hack. So I've got a bit of Lane's kind of sweet sauce, and just to get it a little bit more runny and to sort of get it up to a temperature where it's not straight out of the fridge and too cold to put on, I've just added a tiny bit of boiling water straight out of the kettle, just to sort of thin it down a little bit so it goes on. What you can do is, you know, obviously put some in a little dish and warm it up on the stove or warm it up on the GA itself, but you know, sometimes it's just easier to just add a little bit of water and a little bit of heat from that water and get it nice and thin. So this is just going to add a little bit of sweetness. I don't really like to glaze the cheese. I just like to put some glaze on the bacon itself, and going to get a fair bit of sweetness from that. So they're all glazed up. Going to give it 5 more minutes. Take them off. Let them cool down for a couple of minutes, and I'll come back for the taste test. Alright, so our poppers are finished. They smell absolutely fantastic. Here's a little close-up. Don't know if that's going to focus. Not really my problem. Anyway, little taste test right now. So juicy. Sorry. Had a bit of that cream cheese leak out. Pops have got a nice bit of spiciness. The jalapenos, these ones are obviously a little bit hot, but I love it. The bacon, the saltiness, the sweetness from that rub, the cheese. They're just such a good snack, and as you can see, like, so easy to do. We did these ones quicker. They took half an hour cook time, about 5 minutes prep time. You will not regret doing jalapeno poppers anyway. I'm going to finish this guy off, and probably the rest of them too. So anyway, please like and subscribe our page. We'd love to see more of you on board, and I really hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. So cheers.